Here is a black box. The computer. Let's try to open it up a bit, from the perspective of writing computer programs, aka programming. Without going into details of electronics and electromagnetism, a computer is quite a simple creature. A computer has a memory, for remembering things. And it has a processor, for doing the calculations. So let's see how we would write a program, for taking some input from the user, doing some calculations with that input, and then giving some output back to the user. Roughly speaking, most programs, whether games, web pages or microwave controls, follow more or less this pattern. A doctor might have a software for helping to decide whether a patient suffers from a certain disease. He would enter the patient's data, like his heart rate and age, as the input. These inputs would be stored in the computer's memory, with so-called variables. Then the program would scan through different diseases, and see if the symptoms match to one or more diseases. For doing this, you would start a so-called loop. The loop would go through all the possible diseases. The patient's symptoms would be checked against the symptoms of every disease we go through. You would compare each symptom of the disease with the symptoms we stored as variables from the patient. Then you would collect the matching diseases into a list, which is just another variable. Finally, you would display this list of the possible diseases to the user, as the output. Let's see again what we programmed. First we stored the variables. Then we started a loop. In the loop we compared the symptoms from several diseases to the symptoms from the patient. Then we stored the matching diseases into a list. And finally we displayed the list of the possible diseases to the user. As a programmer, you get help from a software called the compiler. The compiler is responsible for translating your program code into a form, which the operating system, like Microsoft Windows, understands. The operating system is then responsible for operating the hardware. Most programming is like writing software for the doctor. The lower-level programming, like operating systems, compilers, etc., is done by some special